Have you ever tried to fall asleep with nothing in your stomach? Not because you skipped dinner or forgot to eat, but because there was simply nothing left? This is not just a bedtime tale. It's a sleep story for adults, a gentle storytelling of a time the world chose to forget, a time when hunger spoke in whispers and love was measured in grains of rice. This is not a tale of heroes. It's a quiet memory of a parent's last gift, given in silence with love. Tonight's story doesn't begin with war or fire or glory. It begins in a wooden house, walls thin as paper, shadows dancing in candlelight, no fire in the stove, and a single bowl of rice, barely warm. It is history for sleep, but not the kind found in books. It's the kind passed down in quiet voices, through memories, through silence. She didn't cry, she didn't beg. She just made a choice, the kind no one should ever have to make. So if you're lying in bed tonight, full and warm, wrapped in softness, listening in the dark, close your eyes and let this narrated sleep story carry you gently, like a faded lullaby, into a night long ago, when one mother placed the last bowl of rice before her child and walked outside, where hunger waited in the wind. And she never came back. In those quiet days, before hunger crept in silently like mist, rice still had a fragrance, soft and warm, something you could smell gently drifting from house to house. It wasn't rich nor abundant, but it was always there, a familiar scent of home. Lynn could remember it clearly, even now, standing quietly at the doorway, fingertips brushing softly against the rough grain of the wooden frame, feeling the comforting texture beneath her tired hands. She watched On, her little boy, playing gently in the dusty courtyard, his laughter delicate and pure, echoing softly through the village air. Lynn closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, letting the comforting scent of cooked rice blend gently with the earthy fragrance of bamboo and freshly cut grass. A scent that spoke of simpler days and quiet joys. She opened her eyes again, her gaze tenderly fixed on On's small hands, carefully shaping the clay into mysterious forms, his bare feet softly pattering the earth. This gentle rhythm, simple, quiet, unremarkable, was their life. She recalled vividly each evening's gentle scrape of the spoon against the rice pot's bottom, careful, precise, ensuring nothing was wasted. The taste of rice had always been modest, a pinch of salt, a hint of dried fish, but always warm, always comforting. Lynn would smile softly each time On's lips pursed at the first taste, his eyes brightening with innocent joy. Such a simple moment, yet profound, like a delicate breeze drifting softly through an open window. Their home was modest, a single room with thin woven bamboo walls, barely sheltering them from the weather. But inside, it felt alive, warm, and safe. Lynn's fingers often traced patterns on the woven floor mats, textures comforting and familiar, a quiet reassurance in uncertain times. At night, she tucked On beneath their thin cotton blanket, gently pulling it to his chin, feeling its softness under her fingertips, sensing the gentle rise and fall of his peaceful breathing. Those nights were filled with quiet whispers, stories she softly told, passed down gently from her own mother, tales of dragons and lotus flowers blooming silently beneath moonlit skies. Her voice was gentle storytelling at its purest, mingling softly with the faint chirping of crickets and rustling leaves outside the thatched roof. Beyond their walls, the village slowly grew quieter, whispers becoming softer, eyes more anxious, faces thinner. Rice began disappearing from markets, replaced by uneasy glances and hushed conversations. Lynn felt her own stomach softly echoing the growing hunger, subtle reminders of a changing reality. Meals became smaller. Rice tasted thinner. Each grain counted carefully. Her fingers brushed the empty rice pot more frequently now, each gentle scrape a quiet, painful echo of their fading abundance. Yet even as hunger tightened its grip around her, Lynn quietly sacrificed her portion, her heart filling with warmth as she watched An eat, his eyes filled with trust, unaware of the quiet sacrifices she made. One evening, as An drifted into sleep, he reached out gently, fingers softly touching Lynn's hand, a small gesture, yet powerful, making her breath catch softly in her throat. In that quiet moment, her heart swelled, a silent promise whispered through her gentle touch, a quiet vow that she would endure anything for him. Lynn couldn't know then, but those gentle moments of warmth, those simple acts of quiet love, were slowly slipping away, quietly replaced by something colder, something darker, something silently approaching in the shadows beyond their home. And as she sat quietly watching An sleep peacefully, she couldn't yet hear, beyond the gentle breeze, beyond her soft whispers, the quiet footsteps of hunger, coming steadily closer, ready to change their lives forever. It started quietly, barely noticeable, gentle drops tapping rhythmically against the bamboo roof, like fingers softly drumming a slow, calming melody. Lynn listened at night, soothed initially by the gentle sound, unaware that the rain was quietly stealing their future. The first heavy raindrops tasted fresh, landing softly on her tongue as she stood in the courtyard, face tilted upward, eyes gently closed. It felt innocent and refreshing, a relief from the dry heat, the dusty fields. But as days quietly turned to weeks, the rain persisted, relentless yet still soft, subtly changing the air. Soon the gentle scent of cooked rice vanished, replaced by the damp, unsettling aroma of saturated earth and standing water. Lynn watched with growing unease as neighbors hurried along muddy paths, woven hats held tightly, voices hushed, exchanging worried glances. Slowly, quietly, the rice fields drowned, young plants sinking beneath persistent pools of water, their vibrant green fading to muted brown. Faces around her became shadowed with quiet despair, mirroring Lynn's own silent fears. Their village, once alive with gentle laughter, whispered greetings, now withdrew into a deeper silence, broken only by rain gently dripping from rooftops, distant thunder murmuring quietly, faint whispers of concern drifting through thin walls. The market stalls soon emptied, shelves bare, baskets hollow, each object touched by Lynn's careful hands, feeling smoother, worn thin by other anxious fingers. Her steps became slower, heavier, each journey home emptier, accompanied by the quiet ache in her chest. Rice stores in her home dwindled to mere handfuls, Lynn's fingertips counting each grain carefully, feeling their texture, harder, colder now. Meals turned smaller, quieter, each bite carefully savored, the faint taste lingering on her tongue, subtly bitter with worry. She watched An, heart quietly aching, as his innocent eyes searched hers, curious, questioning why the comforting aroma of rice no longer filled their small home. The rain outside continued, softly, steadily. Paths turned slippery and thick beneath her feet, each step pulling gently at her strength. Neighbors knocked softly on doors, humbly asking for grains, a pinch of salt, anything to ease their quiet suffering. Hunger, like an uninvited guest, settled gently into every household, its presence felt in quiet sighs and lowered gazes. Lynn lay awake at night, hand resting gently on Anne's back, feeling his steady breathing beneath her palm. Rhythmic, peaceful, innocent. She listened carefully through sleepless hours, hearing neighbors' quiet stomachs rumbling faintly, blending into the gentle rhythm of the rain. Hunger became familiar, a subtle ache she could initially ignore, yet gradually deepened, tightening its grip quietly, firmly. Then, inevitably, the rice ran out entirely. Lynn stood silently by the empty pot, its bottom worn smooth, each scrape an echo of their fading abundance. Her chest tightened painfully, an ache deeper than hunger, a quiet dread settling in her heart. She turned slowly, eyes softly meeting Anne's curious gaze. His thin face, innocent yet anxious, struck her with quiet grief. "Mother?" he whispered, his voice fragile, barely audible over the gentle rainfall. Lynn felt her breath catch, gently kneeling beside him, hands softly cupping his small face. She traced his delicate cheeks, felt his warmth, precious, fleeting beneath her fingertips. "It's all right, Anne," she whispered tenderly, voice trembling just enough to reveal her hidden anguish. "We'll find something tomorrow, I promise." He nodded, small hand reaching gently, grasping hers with quiet trust. In that delicate moment, Lynn's heart swelled, painfully tender, strengthened by quiet resolve. Outside, the rain changed subtly, drumming gently, harder, each drop carrying a quiet weight of loss, softly echoing their heartbeats. Lynn knew, deeply, quietly, that tomorrow might hold little promise. Yet her quiet determination, her unwavering love kept her strong. Holding Anne's hand gently, she listened to the rain's changing rhythm, softening, then rising gently again, realizing quietly their lives were forever altered. The sweet warmth of rice had become a gentle memory, something to hold on to, a whisper of comfort amid quiet darkness. She promised herself quietly to endure, to continue forward, one careful step at a time, no matter how closely hunger now lingered outside their door. Lynn awoke slowly, eyes heavy, blinking in the soft gray dawn. Her fingertips brushed tenderly across Anne's shoulder, feeling the thin fabric of his shirt, the gentle warmth of his small, sleeping body, reassuring her. Outside, the rain had diminished to a faint drizzle, droplets tapping lightly on the sodden earth. The village lay submerged in a profound silence, deeper and heavier than ever before. Lynn stood carefully, stepping quietly across the woven bamboo floor, each movement precise, careful not to disturb the fragile peace of morning. She reached again toward the rice pot, fingers tracing its cool, empty bottom, the metal worn smooth by hunger and hope. A deep ache settled in her chest, sharper than physical hunger. A quiet grief she could no longer avoid. Her empty stomach reminded her silently that something must be done. Stepping outside, she felt the damp earth pressing softly beneath her feet, mud cool and slippery, squishing gently between her toes, releasing faint aromas of wet earth and grass. Lynn moved slowly toward the village outskirts, eyes searching desperately for something edible. Her hands brushed leaves, fingers delicately exploring textures, searching for life amidst decay. She found only bitter roots and wilted greens, fragile in her trembling fingers, but she gathered them carefully, wrapping them protectively in her worn apron. Returning home, Lynn lit a small fire, smoke drifting upward gently into the damp air. She boiled water, placing the bitter plants into the simmering pot. The scent was earthy, faint, far removed from comforting rice. Anne stirred softly, rubbing tired eyes, quietly watching her. Lynn offered a weak smile, masking sorrow with gentle reassurance. They ate slowly, silently, each mouthful bitter, lingering unpleasantly. Lynn's heart quietly broke as she watched Anne bravely swallow, trying to hide his discomfort. Days passed slowly, filled with silent searches for food. Roots, leaves, even bark, anything to ease their suffering. Lynn's hands grew rough, fingers bruised from digging, body thinning and movements increasingly fragile. She began skipping meals entirely, quietly giving her portions to Anne, who ate reluctantly, sensing his mother's silent sacrifice. Eventually, even these meager meals vanished. Neighbors quietly departed, some toward distant towns, others disappearing without a trace, leaving their houses empty, shadowed, abandoned. The village grew hauntingly silent, the paths empty, doors closed, windows dark. Nights stretched longer. Finally, a morning arrived colder and more silent than before. Lynn's hands trembled as she searched the rice pot one final time, discovering a small handful of rice overlooked in fragile desperation. Nights stretched longer, emptier, the constant whisper of hunger growing louder. A hope flickered gently within her. She cooked each precious grain slowly, aroma rising softly, filling their small room with fleeting comfort. She placed the small bowl gently beside An, brushing his sleeping face tenderly, feeling tears gently welling up. An's eyes fluttered softly open, meeting hers, confused yet trusting. "Mother?" he whispered weakly. Lynn forced a soft, trembling smile, gently cupping his cheek, fingertips brushing lightly against his skin. "Eat this, An," she whispered. "Mother will find more soon. I promise." He nodded slowly, reaching carefully, trustingly, to touch her face. His small, warm hand lingered, eyes searching hers silently, sensing something he couldn't fully understand. Lynn swallowed softly, placing her hand over his briefly, savoring the delicate warmth of their last touch. Quietly, she stood, moving toward the doorway, pausing one final moment to look back at him. An's eyes gently followed her, quietly questioning, silently hopeful. Lynn held his gaze tenderly, her quiet smile filled with love, heartbreak, and silent apology. She stepped carefully outside, the cool morning air gently embracing her thinning frame, mud cold beneath weary feet. She moved toward the edge of the village, vision blurred by silent tears, senses heightened, absorbing every subtle shift of air, rustling leaves, distant bird calls softly breaking the silence. Her legs weakened, knees gently touching the wet earth, hands sinking softly into the cold mud. Breath shallow, eyes softly closing, Lynn felt quiet acceptance fill her heart. She understood, clearly yet quietly, that she might never return, but the last bowl of rice left beside An would sustain him longer. A final gift born from deep, quiet love. She lifted her head gently, feeling the faint caress of the morning breeze softly brushing her cheek. A quiet farewell from a world she'd loved deeply, silently, completely. Lynn smiled softly, memories quietly wrapping around her, the taste of sweet rice, gentle laughter, and enduring love, guiding her gently into restful silence. Inside their quiet home, An sat quietly, reaching for the warm bowl, unaware yet protected by the quiet sacrifice lingering softly in each precious grain, an eternal, gentle whisper of his mother's endless love. In the days following Lynn's gentle disappearance into the morning mist, the village seemed to lose its last whisper of warmth. Silence took hold deeply, wrapping every house, every pathway, every heart in its heavy embrace. Neighbors ceased even their faint greetings or subtle nods, their voices evaporated completely, leaving behind a profound emptiness. Windows remained shut, doors closed softly but firmly, and pathways, once gently alive with quiet footsteps, lay deserted, marked only by faint footprints slowly fading into the mud. Inside their small, dim house, An waited alone, clutching the empty bowl, now cold in his hands, still patiently believing his mother would return. Each passing hour deepened his confusion, his quiet worry. Yet he trusted completely in the gentle promise she'd whispered before leaving. His eyes often drifted toward the empty doorway, straining to catch the familiar rustle of her apron or the faint, comforting whisper of his name. But only silence filled the space. Days slowly dissolved into nights, the soft drizzle outside gradually turning colder, heavier. Hunger quietly tightened its grip on Han, making each movement slower, weaker. The once faint sounds of his stomach became louder, more insistent, each low growl a painful reminder of emptiness. He moved less frequently, wrapped tightly in the worn blanket still carrying faint traces of his mother's scent. A comforting, yet heartbreaking reminder of warmth now lost. Beyond their walls, the village had transformed into a ghostly echo of itself. The once vibrant fields lay submerged and lifeless, water reflecting gray skies, mirroring the emptiness in villagers' eyes who remained. Those capable had silently departed, carrying fragile hope toward distant horizons, while others simply vanished into their homes, quietly closing doors never opened again. Han spent hours listening carefully to the soft, distant murmur of rain, to faint creaks as wind brushed the thin walls. His world shrank quietly into fragile memories. His mother's gentle laughter, her fingers brushing softly through his hair, the warm scent of cooking rice. These memories, though fleeting, warmed him gently, giving him strength enough for another quiet moment, another breath, another day. Occasionally, a faint knock broke the heavy silence. Neighbors approached hesitantly, leaving small offerings, scraps of roots, dried leaves, a few precious grains of rice, and accepted them gratefully, each tiny bite bitter yet precious, reminding him that kindness had not completely vanished from this silent world. Yet gradually, even these gentle gifts ceased. Soon, the faint footsteps stopped coming, leaving him in a silence more profound, more complete, heavier than ever. One evening, overcome by the deafening silence and unbearable stillness, Han slowly stood, stepping weakly toward the doorway. His trembling fingers gripped the rough wood, the texture comforting yet painfully distant. He peered carefully outside, eyes scanning the empty paths, hoping desperately to glimpse his mother's familiar silhouette. But the village remained empty, quiet, a silent story of loss reflected in every closed door, darkened window, and deserted path. The air was thick and damp, carrying the faint aroma of wet earth, damp bamboo, and distant, extinguished fires. He shivered slightly from the chill, the cold air pressing firmly against him. Yet still he lingered, stubbornly hoping for a single familiar sound, a gentle voice to ease the overwhelming emptiness. But none came. With quiet resignation, Han returned slowly to his sleeping mat. He lay down gently, wrapping the blanket tightly around himself, inhaling deeply the faint scent of his mother, warmth now heartbreakingly distant. In the fading consciousness of exhaustion, he recalled her face vividly, her gentle smile, eyes tender and reassuring, voice soft as she whispered stories of dragons and lotus flowers beneath moonlit skies. His breath grew quieter, vision blurred by fatigue, senses gently fading. He wondered softly, fleetingly, if this quiet embrace was his mother's spirit, returning to comfort him, softly whispering it was all right to let go. Her presence felt closer now, warm and reassuring, brushing gently against the edges of his consciousness. Quietly, peacefully, Han surrendered, fully trusting in the lasting memory of his mother's voice, feeling her love surround him, protect him, carrying him gently into restful silence. Around him the world faded quietly, softly, leaving only the tender, enduring echoes of love, a quiet strength that lingered silently, warmly, eternally, in each memory they had shared. And as the profound silence enveloped him completely, the faint sounds of gentle rain, distant wind, and whispered memories of his mother's love blended softly, transforming the emptiness into something peaceful, comforting, lasting forever in quiet remembrance. Years later, thousands of miles from the village once shrouded beneath persistent rains, an old man sat alone in a small, dimly lit room filled with gentle silence. The rhythmic ticking of an antique clock counted the passing seconds softly, steadily, comforting him with its familiar rhythm. In his weathered hands he held an old wooden bowl, fingers tracing carefully along its smooth edges, each touch reverent, each crack in the bowl quietly telling its own story. His name was An, and the bowl was the same one his mother had placed beside him, the last bowl of rice she ever prepared. He had carried it through decades of quiet struggles, across distant oceans, through countless hardships. Every small chip, each worn mark, spoke volumes of her silent courage, the quiet strength and unconditional love she had left him. An slowly raised his gaze toward the small window. Outside, autumn leaves drifted gently downward, spinning softly in the fading sunlight, like whispered echoes of distant memories. His eyes, deep and reflective, watched as golden rays filtered through the trees, casting shifting shadows across his humble room. Each subtle movement reminded him vividly of his mother's presence, her gentle touch, comforting voice, the peaceful warmth she had always given him. He breathed deeply, savoring the faint scent of aged wood and candle wax lingering in the cool evening air. The room felt comforting yet lonely, walls adorned with faded photographs and carefully preserved letters chronicling the life he'd quietly rebuilt. Yet among these precious keepsakes, none held his heart as profoundly as the simple bowl he now gently set on the small table beside him. An remembered vividly that quiet morning he had awakened alone, the lingering warmth of rice, the silence of their empty home. He remembered his mother's face, gentle eyes filled with love, her voice softly promising a return that never came. Those memories had stayed with him, offering solace in difficult moments, gently guiding each careful step through life's quiet journey. His path had led him far from home, to distant shores where no one spoke his language or understood the quiet pain he carried. Yet in every moment, he'd carried the quiet echoes of his mother's love, gently resonating in his heart, softly reminding him of who he was and where he came from. Small gestures of kindness, strength in the gentle lessons his mother once taught. Yet he never spoke aloud of those early days, the relentless hunger, quiet despair, or the silent sacrifice that forever An had quietly rebuilt his life, patiently, persistently. He found comfort in routine, warmth, and shaped his life. Until tonight. Sitting alone, holding the small wooden bowl, he knew clearly it was finally time to break his long-held silence, not loudly, but quietly, firmly yet tenderly, to finally share the hidden story of gentle strength and quiet courage the world had never known. An reached forward, placing the bowl gently upon the table, then turned slowly toward the small recording device resting beside him. His hand trembled slightly as his fingers hovered over the button, hesitating briefly, feeling the weight of the story he was about to share. He closed his eyes, heart quickening slightly, feeling the quiet burden of memory and responsibility resting heavily upon him. Taking a deep, steadying breath, he pressed the button firmly. A faint hum filled the room, the soft hiss of recording tape steadying his heartbeat. His voice, though soft, carried quiet authority, resonating gently as he spoke. This is a sleep story for adults, a quiet piece of history, shared softly, gently. It's not found in any book, never taught in schools. Instead, it lives quietly in hearts that carry silent scars. in those who know deeply the meaning of quiet courage and gentle sacrifice. He recounted gently those days of simple happiness, when rice smelled sweet, laughter felt effortless, and life seemed quietly abundant. He spoke softly of the slow, quiet approach of hunger, the subtle, persistent rain, and finally, his mother's profound sacrifice that quiet morning, leaving behind only that final bowl of rice. Each word spoken was deliberate. Each memory shared was a gentle tribute, a quiet, loving preservation of the past. As An spoke, the weight in his chest eased slowly, replaced by quiet relief, a profound peace he had long awaited. It felt as if his mother's spirit had returned, surrounding him warmly, reassuring him that his silence had served its gentle purpose. When the last words faded, he carefully pressed the button once more, the quiet hum of the recorder gently ceasing. Leaning back into his chair, he sighed softly, relief mingling gently with gratitude. Outside, the evening shadows had lengthened, the sunlight now softly dimmed into peaceful twilight. Closing his eyes, An imagined softly the gentle sound of rain he once feared, now comforting, calming, reminiscent of his mother's whispered lullabies. He felt deeply the quiet strength within him, the gentle love that had guided every step of his life's quiet journey. In this quiet moment, An smiled peacefully, heart gently resting, content in knowing his mother's love was now softly recorded, carefully preserved, forever available to comfort others. And as night fell gently around him, he knew deeply, confidently, that the quiet echoes of his mother's love had finally found their lasting voice. Softly spoken, gently remembered, permanently woven into the hearts of all who would hear his quiet, timeless story. That evening, as An finished recording his story, spoken softly, preserved carefully, he felt a profound peace settle within him. The gentle hum of the recorder ceased, replaced by the soothing, familiar rhythm of the old clock ticking steadily in the quiet room. Each tick was a gentle reminder, comforting him like an old friend's reassuring whisper. An rose slowly, stepping carefully toward the window. Twilight draped the world in soft shades of gray and deep blue, a cool autumn breeze rustling leaves quietly, creating a subtle melody that transported him gently to memories of his childhood village. He could still feel his mother's hand resting protectively upon his shoulder, hear her voice whispering near his ear, recounting stories of serene rivers and lotus flowers gently blooming beneath moonlit skies. He breathed deeply, savoring the faint aroma of distant bonfires and wet earth drifting through the open window. Each breath soothed him, carrying away lingering aches of the past, wrapping him in a comforting sense of closure. Turning slowly, he crossed the worn wooden floor to his small bed, feeling the familiar creak beneath his feet, reminiscent of nights spent nestled beside his mother. He sat gently on the edge of the mattress, feeling its softness beneath his tired body, comforting and familiar. Reaching beneath his pillow, he carefully retrieved a faded photograph, edges worn from years of handling. Despite time's gentle fading, the image clearly revealed a young woman, her smile tender, eyes radiating quiet love. An's heart fluttered warmly as he gazed at the photograph. "Thank you," he whispered tenderly, voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for everything, for the strength you've given me, for the love I've quietly carried all my life." Laying back carefully, his head rested softly on the pillow. His eyes traced patterns formed by gentle shadows on the ceiling, shapes reminiscent of rice fields, winding pathways, distant mountains. all quietly comforting him. His breathing gradually slowed, deepening gently with each calming exhale, easing him into restful tranquility. Outside, crickets sang softly beneath starlit skies, their songs blending harmoniously with the subtle rustling leaves. The world felt calm, embracing him tenderly, ready to guide him toward dreams. As his eyes closed, An found himself gently drifting back, returning softly to his childhood home. He stood once more at their doorway, the village alive with gentle rains and lush rice fields, neighbors offering quiet smiles and warm greetings. The comforting fragrance of freshly cooked rice drifted toward him, filling him with nostalgia and peace. And then, clearly, vividly, he saw her. His mother stood in the distance, her gentle smile radiant, eyes full of warmth and tenderness. "An," she whispered softly, her voice exactly as he remembered, filled with infinite love. "My child, sleep well now. I'm here with you." He stepped toward her, small hands reaching hesitantly, feeling her warm, familiar fingers intertwine lovingly with his. Her touch soothed every lingering ache, her gaze comforting every quiet sorrow. Her arms embraced him protectively, gently holding him, guiding him peacefully into restful dreams. Back in his quiet room, An's breathing steadied, deepening into restful sleep. His heart slowed peacefully, each beat calm and reassuring. Outside, stars shone softly, watching gently over the world below. A quiet vigil, keeping his memories alive, illuminating stories shared, love offered, and strength quietly passed down. Nearby, the small wooden bowl rested upon the table, quietly symbolic, reminding all who saw it of quiet courage, gentle sacrifice, and enduring love. Beside it, the recorder sat silently, holding within it a gentle story, ready to comfort others who might someday need to hear it, to remind them softly of love spoken in quiet actions, courage demonstrated silently, and strength found in quiet perseverance. The night stretched endlessly outside, peaceful and infinite, softly embracing the world. In his peaceful slumber, An felt deeply, clearly, his mother's spirit beside him, watching over him lovingly, protecting him gently, her voice softly echoing within him. "Sleep well, my child. Rest now. You've honored our memories beautifully. My love will always guide you, forever." With that gentle promise lingering, An slipped completely into deep, restful sleep, carried by the comforting memory of his mother's voice echoed softly in every quiet heartbeat, every calm breath, every peaceful moment yet to come. The night sky, serene and endless, softly held the story of their quiet love, a lullaby whispered eternally, forever remembered, forever gently cherished. Sleep well, my child. Rest peacefully. Sleep in gentle memory. If this story brought you a moment of peace, or reminded you of something quietly beautiful, please consider giving it a like. And if you'd like to hear more soft stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Sleep in Memory Tales. I'd also love to hear your thoughts or your own quiet memories in the comments below. Until next time, sleep gently and dream well.